The Glock pistol is what most people would consider the best pistol on the market. Police departments, military, and civilian carriers around the world by the millions love this handgun. But it is the most returned handgun out there, so why are people getting rid of their Glocks? That's what this video is about. The Glock pistol is still one of the most in-demand handguns on the market. Now, even from its original design, a lot of people were skeptical of the Glock pistol originally, referring to it as the plastic gun. But based on the John Browning design and showing that these carbon composite handguns do just fine, Gaston Glock proved that his Glock pistol, the original Glock 17, was indestructible, incredibly accurate, and it rapidly became the world's handgun for the most part. But a hang-up that a lot of people, including myself, have with the Glock pistol is that there's really not a lot of new innovation. But why expand on perfection? I totally get it. But something we recently have seen, and we did a video on this, and I'll put the link here, was we were talking with Maggie at Blue Steel Guns a few months ago, and she commented that the Glock pistol was by far the most returned handgun out there. Now, I'll start by saying it's the most purchased handgun out there, so naturally it's probably going to be the most returned handgun out there. But there's thousands and thousands of people returning Glock pistols all around the world. Out of all the handguns being returned, a vast majority of them are Glock pistols. So we're going to focus on why the world is getting rid of their Glocks. I believe that it is two reasons. Let's start with, for the longest time, it was the best on the market. But because of the new innovations, as Sig Sauer came out with their P365, what we discovered was there was this competition of people trying to come up with the latest and greatest of what is referred to now as the micro compact handguns. So a Glock pistol is just, I think people are finding it's bigger than they thought it was. And even if you go to the 43X, it's still a much larger handgun, and it has less capacity than a lot of these micro compact handguns, and people are realizing it, that there's just much smaller guns to carry around. I believe that most people bought Glock pistols because of recommendations. Most people, especially new gun owners, took advice and they're regretting their purchase because they're seeing guns that are much, much, much smaller than almost most Glocks out there. And they're realizing it's a much more difficult thing to do is to conceal a larger gun. A lot of pocket pistols out there, and I believe a lot of people are seeing that there's much smaller options. They took the advice, they went with the Glock, probably a Glock 19 or a 17 most likely, and they're regretting it. They're regretting their purchases because of that. It's just a much larger gun. The new P365X macro has 17 plus 1 rounds, and you could fit 2 of those in a Glock 17. So people are, I believe that is a major reason for returning the Glock pistols. Now, the second reason, which I believe is probably the biggest reason, is a lot of people didn't realize what they were buying, especially the new gun owners. They went out, they took advice. Most people that bought a handgun got advice from somebody that they should buy a Glock, and they went out and bought Glocks, not realizing that there's not a thumb safety or a manual safety. It's a trigger safety, and you're carrying it, you know, for the most part, it's like a 1911. It's cocked and locked. But it's the striker fired version. That pin is pulled all the way back, and the potential energy is ready to be released. You know, Glock is known. They got great triggers. It does not take much pressure to put on that trigger to get it to fire. And most people that have accidental misfires typically do that with Glocks. It's just a common mistake that people make. So I believe there was also a vast majority of those people that returned Glocks didn't realize that that's what they were kind of dealing with, because they didn't really understand the difference between striker fired or hammer or double action or single action or trigger safeties or manual safeties. And when you put all that together, I think people just start to question mark their purchases. And to be quite honest, if you don't feel safe carrying it, they're not going to carry it. And then they probably got to the point where they thought, well, what's the point? If it's not comfortable or if it doesn't feel very concealable, they're not going to carry it. And when people are making the decisions, when they're sitting there debating, should I bring this gun on me or not? I'm going to wherever I'm going, should I carry my gun with me? If they're making that debate, they got the wrong gun. They definitely got the wrong gun. There should be no question, of course this gun's coming with me. Of course it's comfortable. Of course I feel safe with it. Of course I depend on it. And I think a lot of people just don't see that in Glock. Now, obviously, a vast majority of people that have purchased Glocks do see all that. You know, they do see the potential of Glocks. They love their Glocks. A lot of people, a lot of Glock fans out there. But the people returning handguns, a vast majority of them are returning Glocks. And I strongly believe it's because of these two reasons. It's too big to conceal compared to a lot of the other tiny guns out there. You know, I would conceal a full-size. I often conceal a full-size CZ75, no problem. So I'm not saying that you can't conceal it. What I'm saying is a vast majority of the people that return Glocks return it because they don't feel safe because of the trigger, or it is just too difficult to conceal when there's so many more tiny options that oftentimes have a much higher capacity. It just doesn't make sense to them, and they regret their purchase, and they go and they trade it in for something. So that's what I believe. I'm sure there's other reasons out there. Most people return guns for, there's probably 1,000 reasons why people are returning Glocks. But Glock is the #1 returned handgun in the world right now. And I believe that these are the two, #1 and 2 reasons out there. I'm sure there's other reasons, but I believe these are the top 2 reasons why people are getting rid of their Glock pistols. Again, a lot of people that have Glocks love them, but some people just have that one gun, and maybe it was their first gun and they wished it wasn't a Glock, and that's why they're trading it in. If you owned a Glock and you got rid of it, definitely put it in the comments below why you made that decision. If you have any insight on any of this, definitely put that below. Because these are just based on the conversations I've had with gun store owners and workers, and just kind of making my observations and having conversations with a few new gun owners myself. But I believe these are the main reasons. I believe there's a much better options out there as far as size and capacity. Much, much better options out there as far as size and capacity. And I think people just generally don't feel safe with it. Any thoughts or insight on that, especially those new gun owners? Put it in the comments below. If you like this video, click like and subscribe. Feel called to support this channel with Patreon, that link is also below. But the most important part of this channel is we take prayer requests, so please never hesitate to send that in. Thank you for watching this episode of God, Family, and Guns. And as always, love God, love your family, love guns.